The Great Hall of Station was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. Its walls stretched so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Lights floated in the air like tiny suns, and the floor was made of crystal that showed the stars below. This was where the 12 elder species of the galaxy met to decide the fate of worlds. Admiral Park stood at the center of this hall, feeling very small. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity for 40 years, and he had learned patience. But today, his patience was running out. Beside him stood Ambassador. She was younger than, with sharp eyes and a calm face that hid her emotions well. She held a data pad containing 300 years of human history in space. 300 years of trying to prove that humanity deserved respect. Around them sat the representatives of the Galactic Concord. There were tall beings made of living crystal. They glowed with soft blue light and believed themselves to be the most perfect creatures in existence. There were insects the size of horses, with clicking mandibles and compound eyes that saw everything. They floated in tanks of green liquid, their tentacles waving slowly as they watched. There were 9 other species, and none of them looked at the humans with kindness. The High Speaker rose from his throne. His crystal body caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. His voice was like wind through glass chimes. "The petition from the species known as humans has been received," he said. "They ask for full membership in the Galactic Concord. They ask to sit among us as equals." Laughter filled the hall. They clicked their mandibles in amusement. They bubbled in their tanks. Even the silent, small, furry creatures who rarely spoke made sounds of disbelief. Stepped forward, her voice was steady. "For 3 centuries, humanity has lived among the stars. We have shared our medicine. We have helped terraform dead worlds. We have traded fairly and kept every promise. We have earned the right to be heard." The High Speaker tilted his crystal head. "You have earned nothing, you are." The word hung in the air like poison. It was what the elder species called humans. Earth was a planet of heavy gravity that crushed bones. Its atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so reactive it could burn metal. Its surface was covered with predators, diseases, and natural disasters. No sensible species could evolve on such a world. But humans had, and the galaxy had never forgiven them for it. "Your bodies are too strong," the High Speaker continued. "Your reflexes are too fast. Your bones do not break when they should. You heal from wounds that would kill any civilized being. You are not people. You are monsters wearing the shape of people." Felt his hands close into fists. He had heard these words before. Every human had. But hearing them in this sacred hall, after centuries of trying to prove otherwise, was almost too much. "We did not choose our world," said. "We only survived it." "Exactly," the High Speaker replied. "Survival is all you know. You are predators, killers. We have watched your history, your wars, your violence. You cannot help what you are." A representative stood up, its wings buzzing. "I have seen humans eat the flesh of animals, cooked over fire. They are barbarians." "I have seen humans laugh while falling from great heights," added. "They call it fun. They are insane." The accusations continued. Humans were too loud, too emotional, too physical. They touched each other too much. They formed bonds too quickly. They were unpredictable and dangerous. Through it all kept her face calm, but could see her hands shaking. Finally, the High Speaker raised his arms for silence. "The Galactic Concord has made its decision. Humanity's petition for membership is." This was expected. Humans had been before, but the High Speaker was not finished. "Furthermore," he said, "the Concord has determined that humanity poses a threat to civilized species. Effective immediately, Earth and all human colonies are placed under protective quarantine. Human ships will not leave their designated zones. Human contact with other species will be monitored and restricted. This is for the safety of the galaxy." The hall erupted in approval. The elder species celebrated as if they had won a great victory. dropped her data pad, 300 years of work dismissed in a moment. Looked at the cheering aliens. He looked at their shining cities and their ancient technologies and their absolute certainty that they were better than humanity. He had spent his whole life trying to earn their respect through peace. He was done. "You have made your choice," he said. His voice was quiet, but somehow it cut through the noise. The hall fell silent. "You look at us and see monsters, animals, beasts to be caged." He stepped forward, and several alien guards raised their weapons. "But you have forgotten something important," continued. "We survived Earth. We survived a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we did not just survive, we conquered it, we tamed it, we made it our home." He looked directly at the high speaker. "You think quarantine will stop us, you think walls will hold us. We are humans, we were born breaking through barriers." The high speaker's crystal body flickered with confusion. "Is that a threat?" Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "It is a promise. You have declared us beasts. Very well. Now you will learn what happens when beasts are pushed too far." He turned and walked toward the exit, followed him, leaving her data pad on the crystal floor. Behind them, the elder species laughed again. Foolish humans making empty threats. They would not be laughing for long. 3 months had passed since the Assembly's declaration. The quarantine was supposed to break humanity's spirit. Instead, it had awakened something old and dangerous. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a shipyard that officially did not exist, Admiral Park watched humanity's answer take shape. The ship was called the. It was not beautiful like vessels which floated like glass sculptures. It was not elegant like carriers which moved like dancers. It was brutal. It was heavy. It was covered in thick armor and bristling with weapons. It looked exactly like what it was, a machine built for war by people who had been at war with their own planet since the beginning of time. "She is ready," said Chief Engineer. He was a short man with oil-stained hands and eyes that never stopped calculating. "The gravity cannons are installed. The shields are stronger than anything the Conquered has. And the engines," he smiled proudly. "The engines can push her faster than any ship in the galaxy." Nodded slowly. "How many ships do we have now?" 43 combat ready, another 60 in production. By next year we will have 200. 200 ships against a conquered fleet of thousands. The numbers were not good, but humans had never cared much about numbers. A woman approached them. Her name was Sara, and she would be this captain. She was in her 40s, with short black hair and a scar that ran across her left cheek. 5 years ago, her entire family had been on a colony ship that tried to leave the quarantine zone. The Conquered had destroyed it without warning. 2,000 people, including her husband and 2 daughters, had died in seconds. Sara did not talk about her family. She did not need to. Everyone knew why she fought. "Admiral," she said, "Ambassador has arrived. She has news." They met in a secure room with no windows. Looked different from the calm diplomat who had stood before the assembly. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was tied back messily, but her voice was strong. "They have agreed to help us," she said. Raised an eyebrow. There were reptilian beings who had been part of the Conquered for 6,000 years. They had never been allowed to vote in the assembly. "Why would they risk everything for us?" he asked. Smiled grimly. "Because they hate the elder species even more than we do. They have been stealing their resources for centuries. They use them as manual labor. They have been waiting for someone to stand up. We are that someone." She pulled up a holographic display. "They are also with us. They are sending engineers and raw materials. They have declared neutrality, which means they will not fight against us. And I am in contact with 14 other species who are tired of being treated as lesser beings." Whistled softly. "A coalition of the oppressed. The Conquered will not expect that." "The Conquered does not expect anything from us," Sara said. Her voice was cold. "They think we are animals. Let them keep thinking that." The door opened and a young man rushed in. His name was Han Minyu, and he was the fleet's intelligence officer. He was breathing hard and his face was pale. "Admiral, we have a problem." He threw data onto the holographic display. It showed conquered communications, intercepted and decoded by human spies. "They are not waiting for us to break quarantine," Minyu said. "They are building a pacification fleet, 500 ships. Their mission is—" He paused as if he could not believe his own words. "Their mission is to sterilize Earth." The room went silent. "Sterilize," repeated. "You mean?" "I mean they are going to kill everyone, every human on Earth, every human on every colony. They are going to wipe us out like we are a disease." Minyu's hands were shaking. "The fleet will be ready in 6 months." Felt something shift inside him. For 300 years he had believed in peace. He had believed that if humans just proved themselves, the galaxy would accept them. Now he understood the truth. The galaxy did not want to accept humans. The galaxy wanted humans to die. "Then we have 6 months to get ready," he said quietly. Captain Lee arrived the next day. She was a legend among human military officers. In her youth, she had commanded patrol ships that defended human colonies from pirates and raiders. She had never lost a battle. She had retired 10 years ago, saying she was too old to fight. Now she stood in the war room, studying maps of the galaxy with sharp eyes. "The nebula," she said, pointing to a swirling cloud of gas and dust. "That is where we make our stand." Frowned. "The nebula. Our sensors barely work in there." "Neither do theirs," replied. "But we have one advantage they do not. The radiation in that nebula would kill any crew in hours. The electromagnetic storms would fry navigation systems. But humans," she smiled. "Humans have been living with radiation and storms since we crawled out of the ocean. Our ships are built for it. Our bodies can handle it." Sora leaned forward, understanding dawning in her eyes. "We hide in the nebula. We let them come to us. And then we strike from everywhere at once." "Exactly." Looked around the room. "They have numbers, they have technology, they have thousands of years of experience. But they do not have what we have. They do not have the will to survive at any cost. They have never been hunted. They have never been prey." She placed her hand on the table. "We are going to teach them what it means to be afraid." Over the next months, humanity prepared for war. Factories ran day and night. Young men and women trained in simulators, learning to fly ships that pushed their bodies to the limit. Scientists worked on weapons that would have seemed like magic a century before. And in the darkness of space, hidden in asteroid fields and abandoned stations, the human fleet grew. 43 ships became 100, then 150. Each one was crewed by humans who had grown up being told they were monsters. Now they would prove the galaxy right. The storm was coming, and humanity was ready. The conquered pacification fleet entered the nebula on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. 200 ships, gleaming and perfect, arranged in the precise formations that had conquered 1,000 worlds over 10,000 years. Admiral Rav stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Light. He was confident. Why should he not be? His fleet was the most powerful force ever assembled against a single species. The humans had perhaps 50 ships, maybe 100 if the intelligence reports were wrong. It did not matter. This would be like stepping on insects. "Sensors are degrading," one of his officers reported. "The nebula's interference is stronger than expected." Ra waved his crystal hand dismissively. "We know the humans are hiding in here somewhere. Find them and destroy them. How difficult can it be?" Deep within the nebula, Captain Lee floated in the command chair of her cruiser, the Silent Thunder. Around her, the bridge crew waited in absolute silence. They had been waiting for 3 days, hidden among the swirling gases and electromagnetic storms. Her communication screen flickered. Admiral's face appeared. "They are inside the nebula, 200 ships exactly as predicted." Nodded formation. Standard conquered attack pattern. They expect us to run or surrender, almost smiled. They have no idea. On the Captain Sora watched the enemy fleet on her tactical display. Red dots moving slowly through the clouds of gas, completely unaware of the 43 human ships surrounding them. Radiation levels inside the nebula are climbing, her science officer reported. The crews will start feeling sick in about 2 hours, critical exposure in 6. Sora felt nothing, no fear, no doubt, only a cold, patient hunger for revenge. "All ships, weapons free on my command," she said into the fleet channel. The human ships began to move. They slipped through the nebula like sharks through dark water. Their sensors were not much better than the enemy's, but they did not need sensors. They had something better. They had human instincts, millions of years of evolution that screamed hunter when other species would have felt lost. His voice came through the channel, calm and clear. "All ships, weapons free." The silent thunder fired first. 2 gravity torpedoes shot through the gas clouds and struck a carrier from below. The weapons did not explode. Instead, they created tiny black holes that lasted for 1 second each. That was enough. The carrier collapsed in on itself, crushed into a ball the size of a house. Then everything became chaos. Human ships appeared from everywhere. They came from above, below, and every direction at once. Their weapons were not elegant or beautiful. They were brutal and effective. Gravity cannons crushed hulls. Kinetic rounds punched through shields. Missiles filled with radioactive material poisoned alien crews. On the Eternal Light, Admiral Ra screamed orders that no one could follow. His fleet was designed for organized battle where enemies lined up and fought with honor. This was not battle. This was slaughter. "Where are they coming from?" he demanded. "Everywhere, Admiral. They are everywhere." A human frigate shot past the Eternal Light's observation deck. Ra saw the pilot through the cockpit window. A young human woman, grinning as she fired her weapons into his ship's engines. How could they fly like that? The maneuvers should have killed them. No creature could survive the forces inside those ships, but humans were not normal creatures. Humans were born on a planet that crushed bones and tested survival every single day. They emerged from a cloud of gas directly in front of the flagship. Sora's voice echoed across all channels. "Admiral Ra, your ships are dying. Your crews are being poisoned by radiation that my people barely notice. You have 2 choices: surrender or watch your entire fleet become dust." For a long moment there was silence. Then Ra responded, "We do not surrender to animals." Sora's face showed no emotion. "Wrong answer." The main cannon fired. It was a weapon had designed specifically for this moment. The beam did not destroy the Eternal Light. It was worse than that. It targeted the ship's artificial gravity generators and reversed them. Every crew member on board was suddenly slammed against the ceiling with 10 times normal force. Bones broke. Organs ruptured. Crystal bodies shattered. Ra died screaming, crushed by gravity like an insect. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 160 conquered ships were destroyed. 23 had surrendered. 17 had managed to flee back to civilized space. Human losses were 11 ships, 342 dead. Captain stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder, looking at the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. She felt tired, not triumphant, just tired. "Did we do it?" her first officer asked. "We won a battle," replied. "The war is just beginning." Admiral's transmission went out to every corner of the galaxy. His face appeared on screens in assembly halls, in military bases, in homes and ships and stations. "People of the Galactic conquered," he said. "Today your pacification fleet was destroyed. You sent 200 ships to murder our species. 11 of them returned. This is not a threat. This is a fact." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Earth does not seek war. We never wanted this. For 300 years we asked only to be treated as equals. You refused. You called us monsters. You tried to cage us. And when that did not work, you tried to kill us." His eyes hardened. "Now you know the truth. We are not monsters because we are dangerous. We are monsters because you made us into monsters. You had a choice. You chose wrong." He leaned forward. "The next fleet you send will meet the same fate. And the one after that, you cannot destroy us. You cannot contain us. We are humans. We survive." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, elder species looked at each other with something they had not felt in thousands of years. Fear. 1 year into the war, the galaxy had changed. The reptiles had openly joined humanity. Their ships, painted with new colors, flew alongside human vessels. The experts in energy systems had upgraded human shields until they were nearly unbreakable. 17 minor species had declared neutrality, refusing to help the conquered despite threats and punishment. For the first time in 10,000 years, the elder species were not in control. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of the now flagship of the combined human fleet. She had won 12 major battles in the past year. She had become a symbol to the oppressed species of the galaxy. They called her the Iron Admiral. But victories had a cost. "Casualty reports from the system," her first officer said quietly. 4,000 dead, mostly from the colony evacuation. Sora closed her eyes. 4,000 more names to add to the list. 4,000 more families destroyed. And for what? Because the galaxy could not accept that humans deserved to exist. Late that night, she sat alone in her quarters. Intelligence officer Han Minyu found her there, staring at a small photograph. Her family, taken 10 years ago, before the war, before everything. Admiral Minyu said carefully, "You need to rest." "I rest when the war is over." Sora did not look up. "How many have we lost, Minyu, total?" He hesitated. 47,000 humans, about 20,000 from our allied species. 67,000. Sora finally looked at him. "Sometimes I wonder if we are becoming what they always said we were, monsters, killers." Minyu sat down across from her. He was a quiet man who spent his days reading enemy communications and searching for weaknesses. He had seen terrible things in those communications. The conquered had committed atrocities across 1,000 worlds for thousands of years. They had sterilized planets. They had enslaved entire species. They had done things that made human wars look like children fighting. "Humanity is not kindness," he said slowly. "It is not gentleness. It is the choice to be gentle when you have the power to destroy. We could burn their worlds. We could kill their civilians. We do not. That is what makes us human." Sora was quiet for a long time, then she nodded. "Thank you, Minyu." The next morning, everything changed. Ambassador's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. She looked like she had not slept in days. "The conquered is deploying their final weapon," she said. "A planet killer, the biggest one ever built. They are aiming it at Nu." Nu was humanity's largest colony. 2 million people lived there. Families, children, schools and hospitals and homes. If the planet killer reached it, nothing would survive. "How long do we have?" Sora asked. 72 hours. Chief Engineer worked without sleep for the next 2 days. He and his team, along with scientists, built something that should have been impossible, a gravity well generator powerful enough to redirect the planet killer. The problem was simple and terrible. The generator needed to be activated manually. Someone had to fly a ship directly into the planet killer's path, deploy the generator, and turn it on. The radiation would kill them before they could escape. It was a suicide mission. "I will do it," Captain Lee said immediately. "No," Sora shook her head. "We need you for what comes after. The fleet cannot lose you." Arguments erupted in the command room. Officers volunteered. Allies offered their pilots. Everyone understood what was at stake, and everyone was willing to die. Then a young voice cut through the noise. "I will go." Everyone turned, stood at the back of the room. She was 26 years old, the youngest engineer on his team. She had helped build the gravity generator. She knew it better than anyone. "No," said, his voice cracked. He had known her since she was a student. "You have your whole life ahead of you." Smiled. It was a sad smile, but also peaceful. "My whole life is this moment, this choice. I can save 2 million people. How many people ever get a chance to do something that matters so much?" She looked at Sara. "Admiral, please let me do this. Let me be the one." The room was silent. Sara looked at this young woman who was volunteering to die so that others could live. She thought about her own daughters, who had died without any choice at all. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "I am sure." 12 hours later, a small ship flew toward the planet killer. It was an ugly thing, that weapon. A massive cylinder covered in engines, designed for one purpose: to crash into a world and destroy everything. His hands were steady on the controls. Around her, radiation alarms screamed. Her skin was already burning. She did not have much time. "Generator deployed," she reported. Her voice was calm. "Activating now." The gravity well came to life. It was invisible, but its effects were immediate. The planet killer began to turn, slowly at first, then faster. Its course changed. Instead of new, it was now heading into empty space. "It worked," whispered. "It worked." The command crew watched in silence, had tears running down his face. Minu stood with his head bowed. Sara did not move. She said into the communication channel, "The colony is safe. You saved them, all of them." There was static, then's voice growing weaker. "Tell my parents I love them. Tell them I was not afraid." More static. "Admiral, can you hear me?" "I can hear you." A long pause, then one final word. "Home." The channel went silent. Sara stood on the bridge looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, a young woman had just given everything so that 2 million strangers could live. This was humanity. This was what the elder species had never understood. Humans did not fight because they were monsters. They fought because they loved, because they protected, because they would rather die than let innocent people be destroyed. "Set course for station," she ordered. Her voice was hard as iron. "The conquered tried to destroy us. They failed. Now we end this war." The fleet moved as one. Human ships, all of them united by loss, by hope, and by the memory of a young engineer who had said one word before she died. Home. They were going to make sure everyone had one. 2 years after the war began, the human fleet arrived at station. They did not come alone. Behind them flew the ships of 23 species. The dozens of others who had lived under conquered rule for thousands of years, always being told they were lesser beings. Now they stood together, united behind the species that had been called the most dangerous of all. Admiral Park walked into the assembly hall, the same hall where he had been rejected 2 years ago, the same crystal floors and floating lights and towering walls, but everything was different now. Half the seats were empty. The representative was dead, killed in the battle of. 3 other elder species had lost their fleets entirely. They floated in their tanks, but their tentacles moved slowly, weakly. They had lost their will to fight. And the High Speaker sat on his throne, no longer glowing with pride. His crystal body was dim and cracked. He looked old. Ambassador walked beside. Behind them came Captain Sora, Captain Lee, and representatives from every allied species. They moved in silence, and their footsteps echoed through the great hall. "You have come to gloat," the High Speaker said. His voice was no longer like wind chimes. It was tired, defeated. "No," replied, "we have come to end this." He stopped in the center of the hall, exactly where he had stood 2 years ago when his petition was rejected. Back then, he had felt small. Now he felt nothing but determination. The Galactic Conquered is finished, he said. Your fleets are destroyed. Your economies are collapsing. Your people are questioning leadership that brought them to this disaster. You have lost. The High Speaker's crystal form flickered. Then destroy us. Is that not what monsters do? Stepped forward. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to change you. She activated a holographic display. It showed a document, carefully written in 100 different languages. This is the charter of the Free Species Coalition, she said. Under this charter, there will be no elder species and lesser species, no uncivilized beings. Every species will have equal voice. Every species will have equal rights. No one will be enslaved. No one will be exploited. No one will be told they do not deserve to exist because of the planet that created them. The High Speaker stared at the document. You cannot be serious. You would give equal power to primitives, to species that have only been in space for a few centuries. Sora stepped forward. Her voice was ice. For 10,000 years, you have decided who matters and who does not. You have crushed anyone who disagreed. You have committed genocide against species who annoyed you, and you call yourselves civilized. She looked around the hall at the elder species representatives. We are not taking power from you. We are ending the idea that power belongs to anyone by right of birth or age. If that frightens you, perhaps you should ask yourself why. The representative, an old warrior named, spoke next. I have served the conquered for 200 years. I have watched my people suffer. I have seen our children told they will never be good enough. Today, that ends. We stand with humanity not because they are strong, but because they are right. One by one, the allied species spoke. They talked about their strip mind. They talked about centuries of silence because they were too small to matter. A dozen other species shared their pain, their anger, and their hope. Finally, turned back to the High Speaker. You have one choice. Sign this charter and join the new order as equals, or refuse and watch as every species you have oppressed builds a future without you. The High Speaker was silent for a long time. His crystal body dimmed even further. He looked at the empty seats around him, at the broken remains of an empire that had lasted 10,000 years. You have won, he said finally. We will sign. One by one, the elder species pressed their marks onto the charter. It was not done willingly. It was done because they had no other choice, but it was done. As the last signature was recorded, felt something he had not felt in years: hope. Later that day, found him standing at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Was it worth it, she asked, all the death, all the suffering? Thought about who had died saving 2 million people. He thought about the 47,000 humans who would never see this day. He thought about 300 years of humiliation and rejection. Ask me in 100 years, he said, when human children grow up never knowing what it felt like to be called beasts, when no species fears destruction for being different. Ask me then. Nodded slowly. I hope I live to see it. You will, we all will. That is what we fought for. 1 month later on Earth, a memorial garden was completed. It covered 10 square kilometers, filled with trees and flowers and quiet paths. At its center stood a stone monument with thousands of names carved into it, every human who had died in the war. Admiral Sora stood before the monument, placing a small stone at its base. Behind her, the garden was filled with people, not just humans, families, children, elders. All of them had come to honor the dead. She found his name near the bottom. Her finger traced the letters slowly. We did it, she whispered. We are home. Around her, children were playing. Human children chasing children. Children teaching children some kind of game. They laughed together, not caring about species or planets or ancient hatreds. Captain Lee appeared beside Sora. She was old now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes were still sharp. What happens next? She asked. Sora watched the children play. She thought about the future. There would be problems, disagreements, maybe even new conflicts. That was the nature of living things, but there would also be hope, growth, change. We build, she said. We learn, we become better, not because we are perfect, but because we choose to try. She looked up at the sky, where stars were just becoming visible in the evening light. They called us. They said we were monsters because we survived. But survival was never the point. The point was what we did with our survival. The point was that we never gave up, even when everyone told us to. Smiled humans. Humans, Sora agreed. The galaxy is stuck with us now. Far above, a ship crossed the sky. Its hull was painted with symbols from a dozen different species. Human and more, all working together, flying toward stars that had once seemed impossible to reach. The age of Elder and Lesser was over. The age of the free had begun.